To the Offer Letter Candidate Spotlight, the series that gives job seekers a space to talk about their experience in their own words, just beyond their resume and their job titles. Today, I am joined with Adam Harbaugh, not related to the coach I found out before this. Thanks, Adam, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Brian.
Maybe I should have just let off that you're related
You
to
really could have. Yeah, I could tell that in my entire story.
talked about how your entire experience revolves around football and
It does. It
how
does.
how software engineering relates to football.
Yeah, how my reality is not actually my reality.
But in all seriousness, Adam, for everybody who's hearing your name for the first time and who doesn't know you, can you just give a quick introduction of who you are, what you do, what type of problems you solve on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so I've been working in software development for the past 8, 9 years. Kind of started from the bottom of the barrel, doing some basic project management, and worked my way up into kind of doing some senior management, doing a lot of different roles associated with that. Working in tandem with a lot of different people, doing high level work, working face to face with colonels and different people that are in high ranking in government, and just making it work.
And you kind of led into this. A lot of your experience is in government contracting and the work you've done. But even before that, as an undergrad, you started your undergraduate, you got your degree in sociology. So talk us about that journey about going into sociology and then eventually pivoting into the tech world.
Yeah, so I think it's a mixture of naivety and kind of just having a lot of credits. So, yeah, so I've always wanted to, give back in some sort of way. And yeah, I kind of did a lot of different things in college, and sociology is what I stuck with more than anything. And I had the goal of wanting to be a social worker. And again, going into the naivety aspect of things, of I went into it, graduated, and did not even think about what was going to be, step B and everything. And I did not do research to see, and, again, naivety of that social workers did not make a lot of money, and they would have to do this really stressful job. And then they would have to do another job on top of that to basically supplement their income to be able to afford rent. I wanted to be able to help people and give back in some sort of way, but I also did not want to have to basically feel dead by doing multiple jobs just to be able to afford my rent. So basically, ended up, graduating from college and being like, okay, what do I do next? Just was, doing basic retail. And my sister at the time was working with IBM. And I was like, I can get you a job. And that's where I started. So I was starting at, they do things with IBM versus on a band level. And a lot of companies do that. But started out as a band one contractor working with IBM in their PMO office. And I had started off just really wanting, my mindset was already like, I need to kind of get out of here. And I mean that I was working with IBM, and IBM was fine as a company, but I was still living in my hometown, and I had went to college in my hometown. And I was like, I want to be able to get out of my hometown as much as possible, because I just needed to broaden my horizons more than anything. And no offense to my parents, I just wanted to be able to not be in the same city as them. And visit and not have to live with them or anything along those lines. Love you, mom and dad. Anyway, that came to be a fruition of I was working with that specific IBM office for about a year and a half, and I was basically done a lot of projects while I was with that. And they had basically said that there's this position out with us in Colorado, and it's yeah, job's yours if you want it. And kind of took that leap of faith, didn't know a single person, but it was the only way I had any opportunity for growth to kind of move from being in my hometown to going somewhere else and get a promotion and kind of just start my career. And that was a very
And
long-winded answer.
it's wonderful. It gives a lot of light on kind of your experience. I mean, that it's interesting because I kind of had that same route in my own sense, right? Like I went to and got my undergraduate degree in political science and religion, right? Like
That's where I
what
started, political science.
it's like, what are you going to do with that, right? As everybody kind of finds their own way out of that as
Yep.
well. So it's interesting to hear your path out of what your degree was originally and kind of where you're going with your career then too. So you moved to Denver. Were you still contracting with IBM at the time,
Yeah.
making that move?
So I was contracted with IBM IBM, and I was working actually, this is in Fort Collins, Colorado, so it's an hour away from Denver. And it was with the USDA, and I was actually on site in one of their offices in Fort Collins, and did that for 2 years. And yeah, again, this is the me first big boy job out, and it was working with their agency to kind of help farmers be able to kind of platform and everything. And was working with this small team, and we were working to do an agile transformation. So I was on that team to kind of support that and have that become a thing. And first learning what agile was, um, and elaborating on that for people that really don't know what agile is per se. Agile is this methodology that kind of the main thing with it is to be flexible, and that we want to be able to break things up into small chunks. We want to be able to work on multiple things at one time. We don't want to have it be this happens and then this happens next and this happens next, and there's no room for anything to come in because that's just going to mess up the plan. So going into it and thinking about it from an agile perspective, doing those small bunches, it's going to make things be able to be easier, be able to bring things in easier, and also adapting to just how the world is as well with new emerging technologies, etc. That kind of how it adapts to it. And it's not IT specific. Agile can be really used into any industry, kind of any field. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people know and or understand.
So, question here, kind of just tying back to your undergraduate degree. Do you, especially kind of going into some of the government contractors and working with the Department of Ag, did you see any benefits of having a background in sociology
Oh,
helping?
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, so vast backgrounds, USDA, Army, Navy, and Department of Defense. So I've worked with a good chunk of different agencies. Also FEMA, I don't know if I mentioned that one. So you are going to definitely run up with many, many different people. And it wasn't until I actually was working with the Department of Defense when I was actually working with some colonels and majors. But the thing with having that sociology background is learning how to talk to people. And definitely starting out with the USDA, and that was just on a very surface level, wasn't really dealing with anyone that was super, super high up. I was still, dealing with people that were making decisions, but it was still determining, okay, I'm starting out my career here. I'm learning the basics. I'm doing all these different things, and I'm learning how to talk to these people. And also I'm helping to create classes, and actually found that I really, really enjoyed creating and facilitating classes. And I weirdly like to nerd out and create PowerPoints where it's like I could be able to, if you have an issue with this, you don't understand what this is, I will literally create a class for you that I can go over with it, and we'll have activities in it, and then you can use this as a reference. And I will still do that with any job that I do because, again, I weirdly love it. But from the standpoint of starting out with a USDA, then kind of going with more FEMA than Department of Defense, it's different layers of different seniority, and kind of learning over time with my sociology background of how I'm going to be dealing with situations as well as how I'm going to be talking to people. Because starting from the lower standpoint and working your way up, they're a good way to practice on, but it's still that you are going to be having face-to-face communications later in your career with these people that are in garb and are really making these decisions. And you have to call them by, colonel, you have to call them by major. You're using titles at this point.
I mean, I know myself, I would probably feel a very big imposter syndrome of being in front of an individual with a colonel or major title and explaining what I'm doing. I don't know. I feel like I would probably, I'd probably quiver, and they could probably hear the nerves coming off of my voice the entire
Yeah,
time.
definitely. It's a lot of fake it till you make it. Um, I definitely see what works for people and what doesn't. And I definitely had that again, that imposter syndrome where like I'm on calls with these people, I'm joking with them, and I hear them referring to each other by their first names. And I try like doing that and like, oh, Tom, and then being told by my superior, like, don't call him Tom.
Well, that's a good learning lesson, though, pretty early on,
Yeah,
though, too.
literally. Yeah, definitely something I
So,
had to learn where I definitely would like mess up and say like, oh yeah, crap, I'm not supposed to say his name.
I mean, they've earned that title much more than
They
I
have,
will
yeah, they
ever.
deserve
Yeah,
it. Yeah, I have to respect that title. I need to say that title.
yeah.
So definitely that learning perspective where it's like it gets casual, but like it doesn't get to that casual level.
So, working through all these different government agencies, what would you say is one misconception for people who don't work in government? kind of see about the working for the government, and especially on the technical delivery side?
Honestly, good question. So I think the misconception that people get a lot is that it can be difficult, and people aren't wrong about that. But there's also that particular thing where you have to, again, from my perspective of using different agencies before and kind of my sociology background is learning from them. So each agency that I've worked with, I've found has some similar issues. So I'd say that for perspective with me kind of working with Agile, it'd be like we need you to come in and help our processes and improvement and our delivery. And finding out that a lot of times for each agency coming in and working with them is that there always is that situation of like, okay, well, we want this, but we might not want this. So figuring out where the middle ground is can be very difficult. And that's where people might be thinking like government is difficult. But once you actually figure out what is actually needed, what they actually want, what is going to be perfect for them, what is going to make everyone happy, it does make it be a lot more smoother. It does take time, but it can get easier.
That's really interesting of kind of understanding their needs without them understanding their needs immediately, right? They
Mhm.
kind of want it seems like they kind of want to see what's available first before they decide to roll everything out.
Yeah, it's a lot of reading them, honestly. Hearing what they want, presenting options. You might get yeses, you might get nos, and kind of trying things out and seeing what sticks and what doesn't stick. And I've worked with many different agencies, as I've mentioned, and some agencies are going to be that we are just, one vendor, and other agencies I've worked with where there are multiple vendors. And then my last role I was in, there was about 8 different vendors. Even though I was a subsidiary to the prime and the prime making the decisions, it was still okay. Well, we can't tell the vendors what to do. So we had to be able to figure out what's going to make the customer happy, being aka the government, and also keep the vendors happy as well.
I mean, that's so interesting to think about that being a subset of prime of what your position is entailing, and especially it just becomes that much more harder
But yeah,
from a day to day.
yep. It
So,
definitely can be tricky. That's again with the whole sociology background and also just communicating in general is you need to get to that little level ground with people and make them comfortable, feel comfortable around them. If you can be able to crack jokes, you're good.
um, so you've led scaled agile framework across as many as 12 development teams. What was the hardest part of scaling at that level?
Yeah, kind of going into what I just said before about you can't, the multiple different vendors, so can't really tell them specifically what to do. I can tell them, yeah, this is best case, this is what I would like, but does not mean that you actually are going to necessarily follow it because I can't tell you what to do. So in this instance, when this was a situation that we had to figure out what's something that we could be able to do across the board that is going to be able to give insight to what is happening with the work, be able to facilitate a conversation, and be able to just give overall insight in general. And that's whenever we had a conversation with our leadership and with the actual government, and we actually made metrics be a big thing. So an application that is out there that is one of the agile tools, LM tools, is called Jira. And with Jira, you have the ability to pull reports. So on a per sprint basis, and for those of you that don't know sprints, it's a kind of 2 week stretch of work. Can be longer than 2 weeks sometimes, but generally it's 2 weeks. So I pull a burn up chart, and a burn up chart kind of shows you the progress of how work has been versus from the burn down chart is the overall. So you kind of see the start to the finish and then the reverse situation. So I would pull that burn up chart. So I'd see where we'd start with story points. And then from there, I would also pull the sprint reports. And the sprint report would capture what was completed, what was removed, and what was not done. And I had a kind of handy dandy Excel sheet, which I could be able to put in what points they started with, what points they completed, what was not completed, what was removed, and everything else along those lines, and have percentages attached to it, and could be able to show in real time numbers. And then I was in charge of the ceremony sprint planning for the organization. So I would kind of start the meeting looking at these numbers and be able to facilitate that dialogue of that, okay, so we committed to this and we only completed this. What's going on? And having it be from the kind of continuous improvement standpoint of we are going to be learning from our mistakes. We're never going to be 100% because just with emerging technologies, just how the world is in general, again, not having Agile be IT specific, that we are learning from just our work in general, seeing, okay, let's have this dialogue of that this is what happened in this last sprint, and let's see about possibly learning from that. And then I would kind of do it ongoing for each sprint, and I would have the last sprint on top of that one. So you'd see like sprint 50 and then sprint 51 right below it. So you could see where they are progressing, and just did that for all the vendors. And it just, wasn't trying to put anyone on the spot, but I was also trying to have it be very much a productive conversation of that, I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble here, but I want to be able to figure out what's going on, have that be an understanding of that. We can't, take too much onto our plate and
You've managed portfolios up to $150 million using Jira and PI planning. How do you balance the governance, transparency, and team autonomy in a highly regulated environment?
communication more than anything. I think I'm like a broken record when I would say this all the time is I want people to be transparent, but I also want people to be comfortable. And how we do this to be a successful environment and to be able to actually get to that finish line is to be able to be realistic. And how we do that is that especially when you're going to like a PI planning situation or just even just a regular sprint planning situation is this within our means? Are we able to do this? If there's any kind of hesitation, then we need to have a conversation about this. And if we're having pressure from a manager or leadership or whatever, we want to have that dialogue of that, okay, you want to be able to get this done, but if you want to get this done, then this is also not going to get done. So being able to break up that work and to be able to have it be a thing where everyone feels like they have a voice and that they are feeling like this is manageable, then it's more successful. And, having those tough conversations can be hard sometimes. And that's the thing that a lot of people do avoid is like, I don't want to upset the customer. Is the customer going to be more upset that you are telling them you can do this work and then you don't get it done? Or are they going to be more upset if you actually have this dialogue prior to getting the work done so they know what to expect versus having surprises? Because I think anyone can tell you no one likes surprises.
Yeah, and I mean, just making sure everybody's on board too. I mean, you have to make sure that there is resources planned, both headcount wise and
Yep.
capital wise. There's going to be people on your client side that are also decision makers that if they're out of the office, like that might potentially put projects delayed as well. And you make a really good point on that is like getting all of this stuff ahead of time, or if you're going to be out of the office for a month or two, I don't know if that's going to be the case, right? Is there who's going to make this decision, or do seven people have to make a decision? If it's seven, we have to add more timeline because ever get seven people to agree on one thing, it's never going to happen.
100%. Yeah, it's like pivoting to different stuff, or are we going to pull resources from a different team? Like one example I actually do like to give. So this was actually my last role, and there was a situation where there was this one team that was constantly overloaded, and we had this. I was looking at their sprints that they were going to be having, and it was like, you guys are committing to insert number here. That doesn't seem like it's going to be really possible. Now, hearing from leadership of like, okay, well, this needs to get done, this needs to get done, this needs to get done, this needs to get done. It's like, okay, well, what's number one here? It's like, well, there's like four number ones. Okay, but if that situation that there's four number ones, then none of this is going to get done. You have the same deadline for all of these, and none of them are going to get done. If we have it be that we are having all these number one priorities and we want to get all of them done at the same time and we don't have enough manpower to do it, nothing's going to get done. And ended up being that they kind of deprioritized one in this case. And we're still working on three, but it was like, one less is better. I'm improving. Cool.
I mean, but I mean, at least though there was a realization though, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like, yes, maybe it wasn't as much as that needed to be deprioritized, but there was some readjustments of priorities as well. So when you step into a new program, what's the first signal you look at to understand what delivery issues are in process? Or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. When you step into a new program, what are the signals you look for to understand whether delivery issues are in process or if there's going to be a leadership issue or if there's going to be a culture issue?
I like to talk to everyone if I can. I want to talk to leadership and get an idea of what is going right, what is going wrong, our timeline. But I also want to talk to the teams. And something that I've done in the past that, yeah, I still like to do, enjoy doing with teams if I'm, Scrum Master or Agile Coach or whatever, is I like to be able to have a safe space. So what I do is well, generally, if I'm, overseeing a team, for example, I will have biweekly 15-minute one-on-one calls with these people. And I want to be able to, ask three questions. How are you doing mentally and physically? Is there anything you need to talk about? Like, have it be like, this is a safe space situation, any concerns, questions, whatever. And third, is there anything that you are not currently working on that you would like to? Just to be able to get a little bit more insight, whatever. Maybe you are a 501 tester and you want to get some more insight into QA. Yeah, so I want to facilitate that situation where you're feeling comfortable with me, that you can open up to me. And, that takes time. And a lot of times I've done that at first. People are, this is a waste of time. But over time, they come to appreciate it. But I like to be able to have that conversation to be able to get both ends. I'm not going to, go and tell your manager that you said this. I want to know what is going on, what is working for you, what is not working for you. Because at the end of the day, you're the one doing the work. If it's going to be the situation that you have a manager saying this needs to get done and you don't have the ability to do this, we need to be able to come to some sort of conclusion that everyone is happy. But we need to make sure everyone is happy and that we can be able to get to that conclusion first. So something I've done in the past that I've enjoyed is there's this activity, and some people like this, some people don't, but it's called a rosebud thorn. And basically, what you do with it is you get three different colors of Post-its. So your roses are pink, your buds are green, and your thorns are blue. You can do whatever kind of colors you want here. Basically, your roses are going to be kind of your good things. Shout outs for your team members, just your positive things. Your buds are going to be things that we could talk about that are things for innovation, where it's like, maybe we could try doing this. This could be able to help out this. And then your thorns are going to be, a little bit more prickly things where it's like, you're not going to be shouting out saying, I hate Sam. You're going to say like, this could have done better. We're having these productive things. So you want to be able to, put this on a wall where you could be able to have like your roses over here, your buds over here, your thorns over here, and have this be a productive kind of retrospective possibly thing where your, roses can be kind of, talked about anytime. You can just kind of say, beginning of the meeting, like, Tom did a great job. And your innovation thing, you can bring that up at your retrospective of like, these are ideas. We want to be able to hear from that person that actually talked about that innovation and hear from them like, hey, could be good. Maybe we can follow up on this and actually maybe have it be if someone is capturing these innovative ideas and then we are maybe following up on them. And then the thorns, keeping these anonymous, but we want to still have it be a thing that we can be able to have this productive conversation where this didn't go well. We need to be maybe talking about this more where we can actually make sure this doesn't happen again. We want to actually be able to facilitate and have that mindset of continuous improvement.
And it makes a great conversation too, because I had this conversation the other day. Some of my biggest failures were my biggest learning moments
Hmm.
in my professional journey. Like, would I remake those? Would if I could? Would I try to make those same mistakes? Probably not, because just everything I've learned from them, I would have probably made that mistake further in my career if I just didn't make them then, right? And so when you're able to sit there and talk constructively about problems that came up, or there's this issue that keeps reoccurring and coming to like finding a solution around it, there's some great innovation that comes out of that as well.
100%. And the thing that with the activity in general is that it's the most successful when people have an open mind about it and communicating it more than anything is that like this is an opportunity for us to be able to have a voice. I'm going to be addressing all of these. And yeah, I don't want you guys to hold back. And I want you guys to feel like you don't have to hold back. But I also want to have it be where whenever I'm talking about these out loud, I want leadership to be paying attention. I want them to actually be a part of this and not just me talking about, hey, this is something that we have an issue with and we are solutioning. You need to be a part of this. You need to come to the
So
table because
you have
otherwise,
leadership in the meeting with you on doing this?
yeah,
That's awesome. I love that.
but they also have to be a participant in it. That's the big thing. Like you can be in the room, but if you're not actually participating in it, the team's going to feel that.
Yeah. I mean, I love that because you just get this, you get just such more visibility in issues, right? And if it's, they'll be able to start drawing conclusions as well. It's like, oh, I need to help here or here or here, or hey, I'm noticing that there's a consistent bottleneck over here. Like that leadership should be breaking down those as well.
Yeah, and that's one thing with the whole bud situation as well is because you actually will group a lot of the buds, and then you can actually what we kind of do like a problem solving kind of session, maybe during like your lunch hour, or whatever, where you're going to go and solution these things, and then you can bring it to the end of that retrospective and be like, we already had these issues, what we were thinking about for innovations. We already came up with ways that we can implement it. So let's get your feedback to hear of what are you thinking? Like, do you actually want to try to do this? Like, we think we could be able to make our delivery process even smoother, but we also want to hear from you because at the end of the day, you're going to be the one that's going to be helping implement this. It's that whole, trickle down effect of that. You want to be that agent for change, and you can't actually be that change agent if you don't believe in the message.
And it's just such a hard, change is sometimes hard too, right?
Hmm.
Especially if you don't get that buy-in. And it
Yeah.
sounds like in this, you're trying to get that buy-in right away, especially from leadership.
Yeah, and it's something like, yeah, like maybe you're not going to get that buy-in right away, or like maybe this is something that we're going to put a pin in, but at least you're having the conversation about it, where at least it's on their radar, and you guys can revisit it at your next retrospective. But it's something that we have addressed at least now. We're putting it out there. Maybe it's going to be something that's like leadership above them is that they need to address that, or maybe this is something we can't do anything about because this is a contractual thing. We have to do it this way. But there's always ways and means to be able to make things to be smoother, even if it is a contractual thing. So it's just having that dialogue, and you need to be coming to the table and showing that you want to be able to be a part of the team. Because even though you're in management and you're in leadership, you're still a part of the team.
Hmm.
So be a part of the team and be able to be a part of the conversations, and maybe let your hair down a little bit. Don't want to maybe advocate for, maybe I've gone and gotten a beer with the manager before or whatever and talked about things, but like, hey, whatever works for you.
So, kind of looking at your roles across most of your roles, there's have been some really strong metrics and improvements in velocity, predictability, uptime, and budget control. How do you think about metrics without them becoming a pressure tool?
It's hard because at the end of the day, where like and I mentioned before, where I want it to be that I'm having these metrics to be productive, and I'm not trying to signal out anyone. And I want this to be a productive, constructive conversation of that things happen. But it's the whole thing about being able to work together well is to be able to have those tough conversations for whenever those things do happen, to have it be a constructive thing of that this happened this sprint. Let's talk about it to avoid this happening next sprint or just in general. So I try to have it be where these metrics are not feeling like this is, hanging over your head and this is going to be something that you're going to be worried about. And that's all about just delivery of how it's done in general, where I want this to be a thing where I'm going to present this to everyone. And it's all about how you are delivering it, how your voice is sounding. If you're coming at this and you're like, what happened? That sounds aggressive. But if you come and say this from the aspect of, what happened here? Like, let's talk about this. That's hopefully, this is going to be a situation that your leadership team is going to recognize the octave that you're using and is also going to use the same octave. This is not an accusatory. This is not me saying, you're the reason why this didn't work out. We want this to be a productive thing. And even talking about this in a retrospective, that we're trying to use metrics here to be able to see root cause issues as to what is happening with our delivery. And a lot of times change is required for that to happen. There's those people that have been, for example, doing the waterfall methodology for 20 years, and they have no interest whatsoever into going to an agile kind of mindset and kind of referred to as a fixed mindset. Or you've got those people that might be willing to maybe go from that 20 years of doing waterfall to agile, kind of having a little bit of that growth mindset. And then what the third mindset, which this is one of my activities, which is why my classes I've taught, the benefit mindset, which is those people that have used the growth mindset and then have kind of shifted and told people about it using a benefit mindset. So it's all how it is really at the end of the day, how it's being delivered, where this is not going to feel like it's a cloud over your head. And I'm hoping that it's going to be a situation where I'm going to be talking to these metrics and I can then have a side conversation with these different team members or teams in general and be like, okay, so let's talk about this. How can we avoid this? What actually happened? And have it be where we are taking notes about this. We're actually having, again, having this be a constructive thing. And yeah, I told you before, I love creating documentation in classes. Is this a thing that the team doesn't understand what they're doing for the work? Do we need more clear requirements? Do we need to have a discussion more about what is happening with the acceptance criteria for the work that we're doing here? Is there confusion? Let's actually have a conversation that is actually productive. Yeah, again, the goal at the end of the day is to not have that cloud going over anyone's head. We want this to be a productive and constructive thing. And at the end of the day, what I believe, what helps with that is how you deliver it.
And it's interesting because I want to go back to one thing that you just said, Adam. And you said when you go talk to somebody about like what happened, right? It's not, you're going to talk to them. You're not sending them a Slack message, right? You're not sending them a Teams message because if you said what happened, like that could be misconstrued really
Yeah.
quickly too. And
Yeah.
so just understanding like the power of just going to talk to somebody.
Well, yeah, it's like I don't also want to instill fear or worry in them. Like I don't want to send them a message being like, "Can we jump on a call?" Like, because that's going to be a dread for anyone. Be like, "Oh, what did I do?" Like, I want to be able to give you context into my message as well. Like, "Hey, saw this happened. Can we be able to have a meeting to talk about this?" It's all about how you are sharing about this with the people that you're working with. You want to have it be where you're coming into this calm, even if you are upset. You want to come into this calm because if you're coming to this with anyone and it's aggressive at all, it's not going to be constructive because yeah, you might be upset, but how you are going to be sharing that and how it's going to come across is going to make that other person and or team not feel good, and it's not going to be a productive conversation.
Yeah, and it makes total sense from my standpoint. Working with so many different people, like you have to talk to them as a human as well, and not come at them accusatory or like you want to hear what they said because otherwise, if you're not trying to hear them, you're going to miss the problem to begin with. So you're clearly focused on building and empowering teams. What does empowerment actually look like to you for a day to day basis?
Well, like I mentioned before, I liked having those, biweekly 15-minute one-on-one meetings. And what I feel like is really great with those meetings is that it makes the person actually feel like they have a voice and they can feel comfortable around me. Whenever I actually oversaw a 25-person shared services team, the situation with that is like, okay, this is a very, very large team. A lot of your work does not even overlap. I want you guys to be able to feel comfortable and also me be able to have a 15-minute stand up and have it be successful. And which I, was able to do because I was able to have these meetings with these people to have them be comfortable where we could have that quick flow of information because I knew what everyone was doing. But to be able to have a productive and powerful team, they have to be able to feel comfortable speaking up. They have to be able to feel comfortable to say, we should do it this way, or have we thought about it this way whenever we are gathering requirements or we're doing the work. I want them to be able to feel comfortable with them coming to me with their issues that I can then go address. Because if they are living with any issues at all or dealing with anything that's causing them stress, that's going to impact their performance possibly. So at the end of the day, in order to have a successful team, we need to make sure that they are happy.
You coach both delivery teams and executives. How do you how does coaching differ for both of these groups? And what trends resonate most with leadership?
Good question. Okay, so I've taught a lot of classes, and that coaching the classes were at an executive level as well as a non-executive level, and just also working with executive versus non-executive, where it's a lot of it is coaching and a lot of it is covert coaching. This is kind of the best way to put it. So with a lot of the classes that I was kind of, helping to teach, which were like Sealed Agile classes or just, those Agile 101 classes, is these are people that are in, the higher up positions where they are wanting to understand this and see how they could bring it to the work that they're doing. And a lot of times when I do this from the real world perspective of how this is going to be able to help them and also, going in and helping out with the transformation or leading it, and you are going to be working with those people people that are going to be making the decisions. And at the end of the day, we want to have it be like, okay, we want to do this extra transformation, but we also want it to be where this is going to be a realistic thing. We can't have it be that you are expecting us to be agile tomorrow. Having it be that we're going to be starting things, we're going to have it be slow because we want to get everyone on board. It's going to be more or less from the perspective of, from the talking to the executive thing of, you want to put those realistic expectations out there. There's also the aspect of how I want to kind of put it is, you might have presented an idea to some executives and they might say no to it. And you put the hook out there a little bit. So now it's in their head. And sometimes maybe they might present you with an idea that sounds familiar. So you're doing the coaching by doing that as well. And that's from the kind of executive aspect, and from the, less people that are not executives, they are going to be a little bit more eager. They're going to be like a sponge, and they want to be learning all this information because they want to be able to share it. So having it be a lot better with them, it's not better, it's easier from the standpoint of, they are eager, they're wanting to learn, they are then going to share with other people, and that hopefully is going to influence the executive aspect of things. It's more or less going from the aspect of that there's different ways of doing things, and again, going from the contractual standpoint of how things work, how things need to be done, seeing if there's wiggle room for anything, seeing if we have that, conversation dialogue of, this is how we're doing things. Can this be improved upon? Present ideas, see what works, see what doesn't work, see what you give them, see what they give you back. The give and take, more or less. I obviously would probably more enjoy coaching the people that are not executives, because obviously it's easier. But I do also like a challenge. I like to be able to go in and have it be where, this is going to be a situation that I'm going to be having to deal with, and I'm going to have to figure out how is going to be the best way for us to work together, how we're going to get to that finish line. I like, I guess I feel like I'm weird saying this, that I like that situation where I'm giving a problem or a situation and I have to go down a rabbit hole, because the unknown excites me.
Looking back, what's one agile belief that you held early on in your career that has evolved over time?
Adapting over time, adapting to change, and honestly, how you're responding to the change too. So from the, me having the foundation of what agile is, and understanding what it is versus actually doing it. I'm someone that, just based upon learning style, is I actually learn better and absorb better by doing. I learn from my mistakes. I've had a situation in my career where I sank, and that's what I needed to happen, because I learned from that. I learned never to do that again because of that situation. So that's that foundation that I want to be able to share with other people, that you need to kind of experience things to see what's going to happen. And there's that, methodology aspect with Agile where they say, fail fast. And that's, you try something, you see it doesn't work. You learn from that failure, saying, okay, we tried this. We thought it might work. It didn't work. Okay. So what are we doing next? And that's kind of how I'm look at it, just adapting to life in general, is a little bit of that agile principle of that. I learned from my mistake. What am I going to do next?
So, kind of on that same boat. So, what's a tough lesson you've learned from a program that didn't go as planned, and how did you change?
So I was on a program, and I had been given a window for the completion for whenever it needed to be done. I was very new to Agile at the time, and I was overseeing one team, and I was asked to oversee another. And I, going into being a Scrum Master this time, I was not comfortable being a Scrum Master, and I had vocalized that. I was like, I'm not ready. I have a certification, but I'm not ready for it. And I will just, I'll say this until like, whatever, till the end of time. Certifications don't mean anything unless you've actually done the work to go along with it. You can have as many certifications as you want. If you don't understand how to do the work associated to it, they don't mean anything. So I had the Scrum Master certification, but I didn't understand how to be a Scrum Master. I didn't understand what to do. And I was overseeing this other team, and there was a very short time frame that the work needed to be done in. It was kind of like I was told about the project in March, and this was officially had started in April, and it needed to be done because the application was sunsetting in August. So I had a developer that was working with me on it. He was already working 60 hours a week because it was just basically him. bringing in a tester. At first, things were seeming all right. And then it wasn't. Come to find out too that we had gotten the green light to actually start the work on this in January, in the funding, and we had not actually done so until April. So that might be a factor. So that came to the thing where it came to be August and we weren't done. And yeah, I had vocalized on a couple occasions that I was like, I need help. Like I don't, this is not going well. And, just was kind of being encouraged, like, you got this, you'll be fine. And, it ended up not working out and I had to take the fall for it. And yeah, I remember my developers telling me at the time, like, "No, you've done everything now." And I'm like, I have, but also we need to have someone to fall on the sword. I maybe again because I'm green, so
Yeah.
admitting my mistakes with even of like I didn't do this or I didn't do this, and I maybe should have communicated this or done this. Wasn't comfortable in the position still, and that's the thing that I've held with me from the beginning of my career, of that this didn't go well. I sank, ruined my reputation, and different projects didn't want to take me because it's like, well, you just failed this project. I wouldn't want to take you either. So learning from that, because like, yeah, definitely was dark time of that. What do I do next? How do I recover from this? How do I adapt to this? And having this be a productive thing, having this be where I learn from this, having it be where I'm taking, you know, more accountability for it. That yes, I shouldn't have been put in this situation because I wasn't ready for it. But also I was too green. I didn't know what to call out. I didn't know what to specifically do. I was being looked at as a subject matter expert when I shouldn't have been. So that was an issue. But also funding. We got the green light in January. Why didn't we start the work in January?
And there's
So
a couple months there that it's been 3 months,
yeah.
sorry.
So it's like fault on both sides, but also not having it be where you are not taking any accountability. Because yes, I did things that were wrong, and being able to learn from my mistakes and have it be that, okay, so learning from my mistakes, how am I going to put this into my next career and to my career in general, where I remember all of this happening. And I do not want this to happen again because I know how that felt and how that looked, and I do not want that to happen ever again. And using that as an example for others of that I've been in this situation before, and being able to say like, I know where you've been because I know I've been there, and having it be where they actually believe you because you can use those experiences, that it's not over. It's not the end of the world.
And I don't want the listeners to think that you're not capable of being a scrum master because your last role was a scrum master as well.
Scrum Master, Agile Coach. Yeah.
Yeah, like so you have held this role later in your career and were able to be successful at it as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that whenever that happened to me, that was early in my career and was able to adapt, very, very, easy after that because it was like, yeah, once you've been into that dark place, you don't wanna go back, so you're, like, additionally on your toes and, doing whatever you can to make sure that doesn't happen again.
So I don't want to end on a bad note here, but so what is a success on a program that you were on that you hold really near and dear to your heart?
Yeah. So, when I was actually a part of that, shared services team, that 25-person shared services team, which I loved that team. They were amazing. I was also in charge of this delivery team as well. So it was a separate team, and some of the same people that were on that shared services team were on that team as well. So basically, what I take away from that team more than anything, I'm so proud of, is that we needed to create a mobile application, and this was with another division of USTA that I was working in, and we had to create this from the ground up. UI, UX, and developers, everything on the lines. And the thing that made that be difficult was that we did not have a test environment to be able to
Wow.
actually do any testing in. So I have this government product owner that is, feeding us what needs to be done with it, but we can't test it. We can do our own little bit of testing, but we can't, do full testing. So we actually need to be able to continue doing the work here. So what I did is, I'm having my team members do the little bit of testing that they can. But I need to be able to have this work that we're doing go forward. So I'm having our government product owner signing off for functionality because you can't do the full sign off because it's not been fully tested, but you're signing off for functionality for what we've done so we can go on to the next step. what ended up happening is that we became a fully automated project because we had the time to do that.
Wow.
And we were the only fully automated project on the entire release train. And we were looked at as a gold standard. And we're able to get so much work done without having that test environment done and be able to have everything go so smoothly. And, yeah, we ended up getting the test environment after I left the company, and ended up getting that application completed. But it was like came in with nothing. We still had nothing, and we made something out of it, even though the cards were not with us. And I'm super proud of that because it was, you know, we decided that we were going to adapt, and we did.
Yeah, and the challenges of that are just so unique as well. It's just not a like, how often do you run into an environment that doesn't have a test environment?
Yeah, it's super, super unique. Yeah, having meetings like, what's going on with this? And no one can give me an answer. So it's like, well, out of my hands. I've sent emails, CC leadership on it, done all that I can.
So now looking back, we talked a lot about your experience kind of on projects and with teams, and you've worked as a Scrum Master, you've worked as an Agile coach, a product leader. What are you looking for next, for your next role?
Yeah. So one thing that I want people to understand, and I mentioned this at the very beginning, is that Agile is not IT specific.
Yeah.
And it's not, government specific. And only my career's only been mainly in government, a little bit of healthcare, but mainly government. That just because I'm only been in this industry doesn't mean that I can't work in your industry. The thing with Agile is that it's things don't change very often industry to industry. There's going to be, some terms you need to pick up, maybe like a healthier situation, and that can be easily done. I feel like there's a stigma attached to Agile a lot when it comes to the industry, that it's like it only is IT and it's only in that specific industry that you're in. So I want to have it be that people can understand that, like, I might only have government and a little bit of healthcare experience, but, maybe you are in marketing, that, like, yes, there is going to be a little bit of adapting, but that's the entire point of Agile, is adapting. And the concepts don't really change that much for Agile at all. Just jumping over, it just changes with those few different concepts for those different industries that you have to pick up on. I really say don't want to be pigeonholed for it being IT and just government. That I want to be able to show you how I can be able to give you a productive delivery. And I want to be able to show you how I can create amazing teams for you and coach and facilitate classes and create classes and show you that I can do more than just this. I can wear multiple different hats.
Yeah, and I mean, just learning from, or just from hearing what you were saying too, one of the questions that I wrote while we were doing this was there could be an avenue for the learning and development department, right? You've
Oh yeah,
written
I love
classes,
that.
so you've,
Love it. Yeah,
yeah,
I super nerd out on it. Like, you give me a topic that you need more information on, I will create that for you.
yeah, and curriculums are super important for developing staff and employees and making sure everybody as a company is growing too.
Definitely.
S- So, So, if a hiring manager is listening to this, what should they know about you and how you show up to work?
I am eager. And I say that where it's like I don't want it to come out as like a fault. Like, I am here to work. I'm energetic. I want to know everything. And I don't want it to be the situation where it's going to come off wrong at all. I want it to be like, I want to be a sponge more than anything. I want to understand how you're doing things. So I ask a lot of questions. I'm a very inquisitive person just by nature. So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions because I just want to understand how we're actually doing the work so I can see where I can fit in and where I can be able to pitch different things to you. So that's really where more or less what I'll say to people is whenever I'm coming in to do this work is that I want to show you that I am eager and I'm interested.
And I know you're based in Colorado. What
Yeah,
type of
Denver currently.
opportunity are you looking for? Remote, hybrid, in person, any of the above?
So yeah, if it's in Colorado, willing to be, in person, hybrid. Outside of Colorado, I'd say remote. Yeah, I can work whatever coast time. Yeah, I'm used to doing East, Mountain, Pacific, Centrals. I can do whatever time zone you need me to.
And if a hiring manager or recruiter is listening to this, they want to get a hold of you, what would you recommend as the best way to?
Yeah, I'm very flexible with that. So you can reach out to me on my LinkedIn, which Brian, you'll be putting on here, as well as my email, which is Adam_Harbaugh@outlook.com, and my phone number, which is
Perfect. Adam, thank you for taking the time today to walk us through your career, kind of your
yeah, I
journey
appreciate
through
it.
it. And if any hiring managers, recruiters, or leaders are looking for somebody like Adam, reach out to him. All of his contact information will be included in the show notes. And thanks to everybody for listening to the Offer Letter Candidate Spotlight.
Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, Brian.